You're listening to the Blue Raider Podcast, your number one resource for all the latest news, updates, and game recaps from Middle Tennessee athletics. Join us every Tuesday for our weekly interviews with players, coaches, and local media personalities alike. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to like and subscribe on all our socials. We're on Instagram, X, Twitter, and TikTok at Blue Raider Pod. If you're currently listening on your favorite streaming service, we also offer a visual presentation on YouTube at Blue Raider Podcast. Lastly, I'd love to hear your feedback, so don't forget to subscribe to GoMiddle.com to discuss this week's episodes along with the latest news and updates around Middle Tennessee. Welcome back to the Blue Raider Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Bolden, and today is May 28th. And welcome to our first episode of the summer series here at the Blue Raider Podcast. And in today's episode, we're going to be highlighting some of the national champion competitors from MTSU this spring, starting off with senior golfer Owen Stamper and junior track runner Stephen Eloji. And then, unfortunately, as I had teased on our social media accounts, that we would have tennis player Leo Ray Queen joining us, but unfortunately, he had to travel all the way back to his home country of France after competing this last week. But I wanted to take just a minute to highlight the season that he had. He finished at one point at 18th in the country in singles competition, as well as being ranked with his doubles partner Andre Horak, who also competed last week. An impactful season, to say the least, about Leo's year. 8 ranked wins, taking this team to the NCAA tournament, as well as their 5th straight Conference USA championship. And Leo himself also picked up a Conference USA Player of the Year and Newcomer of the Year award. So very impactful year for Leo. Very excited about what he has done, and as well as what he's going to be doing as he moves forward into what I assume would be a professional career at the tennis ranks. So, Leo, I appreciate him a lot for trying to work us in, but of course, family matters more than anything, and I hope for him safe travels, as well as all the other tennis players who making that international trip. So, without further ado, we'll get into our interviews again today. Don't forget to check us out in 2 weeks as we continue our summer series. Next week, we'll be highlighting women's basketball, but until then, I will catch you in 2 weeks. All right, Raider fans, welcome back into our summer series. I'm joined today by our men's senior golfer, Owen Stamper, who just returned from the West Lafayette Regional, his second straight year of competing at the regional level at the NCAA tournament last year as a team, but this year as an individual. And Owen, tell me a little bit about your experience there, man.
Yeah, so, golf is an individual sport, and the hard thing about college golf is you have to play with counting 3 other guys score every day. And doing that for 4 years, I hadn't played regionals twice as a team, and then this year I played as an individual. And it was a weird, different vibe. You don't have your guys with you; you have your coaches. And when you're at dinner, you don't have 6, 7, or 8 guys. You have a couple coaches and your family there, and it's different. But it's the kind of golf that we play during the summer. So the vibe was, I was able to get into that routine. It was just weird going from a lot of team golf to that, but it was a great experience. A really hard golf course, which I like hard golf courses, and we had a chance to punch it to the nationals, just one shot short. So,
well, I think you it's a testament to your scores there. You kind of had a rough first round there, and then you had a good bounce back in the second and third rounds. Tell me a little bit about, you say it was a settling in effort or kind of figuring out the course.
The first 9 holes, course playing really hard. It was blowing 30. Knew it was a hard golf course, but I mishit maybe 4 shots that front 9, ended up shooting 5 over on 9 holes, and it was just a wild front 9. Nothing really went my way, and I got off 9, went to 10, and I was like, well, that was really weird. And Payne was like, yeah, that was different. Let's just get back after it. The next 45 holes I played great, played those 10 under to give myself a chance at the end, and just, I don't really know if it was unsettled nerves or I just think I just mishit some golf shots. And with that golf course, you had to hit it borderline perfect every time. And golf's hard, man. It's a brutal game.
And it all came to a culmination there with that 3-man playoff. It doesn't really get any more exciting than that. And I know, I think it was a tally of you both parred the first 2 holes, then it fell off in the third hole. If you can correct me if I'm wrong there, but what's kind of the emotions rolling through something like that?
Well, it's like, when we made the turn that last day, I like knowing what score I have to get to. Some guys don't. Some guys just like to play, but I'm very competitive. And I looked at Payne and I was like, well, what do we got to get to? He's like, right now, it looks like we got to get 6. I was like, all right, we can get there. I played the back nine good all week. I love that back nine. Tons of wedges for me. And ended up hitting it close several holes in a row. And I made a big putt on 13, I believe. Then out standing on 16 tee box, I was 6 under. And so we're like, all right, we have par 5 and 2 tough finishing holes. And I cut a couple bad breaks in a row there on 16, made bogey, and then made 2 great par putts on 17, 18. And I was like, well, there's 3 of us at 5. Let's get after it. And I've played all day with Cameron Huss from Wisconsin, and then Garrett. I played with him a couple of rounds throughout my career. Just didn't know him very well, but I know he's a great player. And then on one, they were both in the fairway. I was in the fairway bunker. They airmailed the green long, had some adrenaline pumping, so I was just licking my chops because I hit last. And then, of course, my adrenaline got to me too. I airmailed the green. We all got up and down for par. The next hole, we all didn't hit very good golf shots. It was a par 3. And I felt like I was in the best position. I mean, Cameron actually hit in the water on that hole. So it's like, all right, we can kind of count him out. He his drop penalty shot to probably 6 feet down the hill. It's like, all right, par takes him out for sure. And it might take Garrett out just with where he's at. And we all 3 ended up making bogey. And so it's like, all right, well, it's a survive advanced scenario. Let's just go to the next. And 17 is probably one of the harder holes out there, in my opinion. Another par 3. He's playing like 212 that day. Water all on the right. Gary hit a great shot to 25 feet. And then I just flared one in the water. And I hit it. I knew where it was going. There was nothing to be said. And I was like, well, we're going to need a miracle here to survive through this one. Cameron got up and down for par, and then Garrett's putt, I still to this day don't know how that ball didn't go in. It touched every inch of that cup, went horseshoe back at him. But yeah, just, golf is a brutal game. I mean, if I hit that thing 30 yards left, we're still in it. We have a chance to get up and down and go on. It just kind of came down to a little open face 6-iron into the water. So.
Well, tell me about your experience at MTSU. One of the few nowadays. I know golf can even be a funny sport about transferring and things like that, but you're a true 4-year player here at MTSU. Just kind of, again, the culmination of the opportunities to play at such a high level like you have, and been very successful. So I'm interested. What's your feedback in regards to your years at MTSU?
Yeah, so I'm thankful for every second I got. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school and wasn't able to play the national schedule like a lot of my buddies that are signing SEC schools. And like, I knew I could beat them. I beat them all summer long, but it's like right after fall break, basketball, and then losing region, then we go straight to baseball, and then wherever losing region again, straight to golf. And I just ran through that. So it was my recruiting process was finding a coach that believed it's like, hey, I can do this. And when I get full time, I think I can be really good. Coach McIntyre was amazing with that. He was like, well, I like you. We're going to take a chance. And I think it worked out okay. I made the best friends of my life down there at MTSU. Too many memories, honestly. Lots of laughs sitting in the hotels or on the plane rides here and there. And I wouldn't trade a second for it. It was an awesome 4 years.
So you would admit that golfers are also athletes then?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, we all can't run down on a fast break and dunk a ball, and a lot of guys can't throw 100 mile an hour and hit a baseball 400 foot, but we do some pretty special stuff with the hardest game that we play. So
yeah, golf is definitely has its challenges. As one that is absolutely terrible at it, but I'm interested to know from your perspective, how did you make that decision? Like you said, you're a 3-sport athlete, baseball, basketball in high school. What made you decide that golf was going to be your game?
Yeah, I mean, basketball is a pretty easy one to X out. I'm 6'3". I'm not 6'8". I'm not jumping out of the gym. I was an okay high school basketball player. I mean, averaging 15 and 8, like that's an okay, but it's nothing that's going to take you to the next level. I did that because all my friends played it, and I love the competitive side of it. Baseball was my first love for sure. I loved playing baseball, but probably around 8th grade freshman year, I was always going to play all 3 throughout school. I couldn't give any of them up, but it was a fact of, all right, I want to do something professionally. Like I want to take a shot at something. What's my best odds? And so I kind of had to build my lifting routine and my whole body, because a baseball body and a golf body, it's totally different
Hmm.
lifts, everything. And so I was like, I really think I have the best shot in golf. And so that's what I committed to in that. But at the same time, whenever those seasons rolled around, I'm full in on that. I love how golf, you're always chasing perfection, but you're never going to get there. And it's always you and your golf ball against the course, and you stack them up against other guys. It's you can't in team golf you can have a guy save you from a bad round from the team perspective, but you're always fighting for yourself, and there's nobody else to blame or back you up on it. So that's why I really chose golf. Is just it's only you out there, and you just got to go get it done. And you can't make an excuse for it.
Now, I know your dad is also the baseball and golf coach at your high school that you're from. It is his coaching and his, I guess his kinship to you. Did it ever have any sort of effect on what your decision was as well?
I mean, I'd say all the time, I'm very, very lucky to have the parents I have. They aren't the controlling, the overwhelming parents when it comes to sports. I always hated seeing kids who are very talented that their parents burn them out with the sport. My
Mm,
dad was going to treat me the same if I shot 65 or 85. As long as I gave my all to it and I was fully committed to every shot, he was perfectly fine with it. The result was not what he was after. And he played college baseball, and then of course off seasons those guys they play golf. And when he
hmm.
was out of college, he had a ton of time on his hands, and he got into golf, became a really good player. And so, I mean, tagging along with him on the course when I was young, I mean, I don't remember when I wasn't playing golf. So having that relationship with him, where we can just when I was younger, we go out and play nine. It was always the goal to beat him, and then I finally beat him, and it's like, okay, well, this feels really good. And then getting in the competitive side of golf, when he got me, taking me to all these tournaments and giving me the opportunity to showcase my talents, it was like, okay, I think I can actually do this. And he was always there for me in the lows and the highs. I remember a crazy story in high school. We're playing, of course, in the high school Kentucky season, like you play a lot of tournaments in that first week. Like you're playing probably 6 tournaments in a week and a half. It's just how the schedule always works. That's when all the best tournaments are. First term of the year, shoot 67, 68 win. That was a junior year. Then literally the next day at a different golf course across the county, I think I shoot 90, and it was like, okay, this is a big reality shift. Like I had a terrible day, nothing went right, man. Nothing changed out of him. It was like golf's hard. You have a tournament tomorrow, you have to figure it out. And so he's always been so supportive of me and everything, and so is my mom. And they're really good about making me know that golf isn't everything, but at the end of the day, you can't beat yourself up too much over this game.
Yeah, I would assume you playing multiple sports growing up is a great way to kind of combat that burnout that you alluded to earlier. Now that you have dedicated your, I guess, your athletic abilities to golf, now that you are in college, and it's been 4 years now, I'm interested. What does a guy like yourself do when you're not on the golf course? What are things that you do to kind of break away from the game?
If I'm not playing golf, I'm either hunting or fishing usually. I'm somewhere out in the middle of nowhere without cell service, and I would be perfectly fine if I never had a phone, because I love being out in the middle of nowhere with a couple of buddies trying to hunt something down or catch a big fish. That's what I do, and I feel like I don't really ever get burned out just because I know how to shut it off. And hunting and fishing is a perfect release for me because it's a totally different life, and I love every second of it. So
What's your game? You hunt everything?
if it flies or jumps or walks, we hunt it. We hunt it. We hunt it all up here. So anything from coyotes to deer and turkey and dove and ducks. So
Excellent. Yeah, you sound like a real I mean, I'm an Eagleville guy for those that are from MTSU. I'm a country boy, true to Murfreesboro, but you sound like a guy like very similar to people that I had grown up with. Minus, I was a baseball guy. Golf was just never my game, and for whatever reason, it's funny that you mentioned that you were able to do both at the same time. So to kind of go back to that transition of you know, going between all these sports, how as a guy, this is more of a personal question than something that people want to know. How are you able to transition your swing from a baseball swing back to a golf swing, and then vice versa, especially through the spring and summer?
Yeah, I mean there were several tournaments because the U.S. Open local qualifier, it's always in May, and so like I'd always play that, and literally would might have a ball game the night after or 2 nights before, and so it was. I never had an issue with it. I always hear like, oh, golf swing mess up baseball swing, baseball mess up golf swing, but it just always in my head it was two different swings, but like I was focused on two different things in both. So yes, after the baseball spring season, it took me maybe a week to get back into tournament shape, just from a little almost rust breaking off. But I don't think the baseball swing ever affected it. I think it all honestly helped me with because one of my biggest parts of my game is how well I drive the golf ball. I do drive it long and straight, and I always had to. You're creating speed and power in baseball, and I think that really helped me out with the driver because I know how I have fast tips, and that translates to baseball as well and fast hands. It never really bothered me, but at the same time, I never put them together as if they would conflict because it all kind of was a totally different game. Like one's sitting still, one's coming at you at 93. So that's kind of how I compartmentalized it.
You touch a little bit, and you sound like a guy that understands the modalities of training in comparison to those that require more athletic ability compared to golf. And I know I joke about golfers not being athletes, but you do sound like a guy that has an understanding of what it takes in the off season or even in season, for that matter, to train to perform well. So, as a guy that studied physiology at MTSU myself, I'm intrigued to know, what does a guy like yourself have to do in order to stay in season shape as well as even in the off season?
Yeah, so golf it's very hard on your back and your hips. And so a lot of the in season stuff is a lot of maintenance stuff. It's a lot of stretching, it's a lot of mobility because I mean your body's swinging this club over 100 miles an hour hundreds of times a day. And so you have to not be able to let that body break down. So I do a lot of maintenance in season, day to day, before and after rounds of just mobility, making sure everything can move the way I want to, especially in my hips and my hip flexors. That's big for me. And just being able, because I have a big rotation. And so that has to be able to fire and it can't be locked up because then we don't have a golf game anymore. So it's a lot of
Mm.
mobility. I don't touch a lot of weights in season. If I do, it's a lot of core and balance based stuff. But it's a lot of rotation stuff for me on the workout side of things. And I mean, there's some guys that love weights and some guys that don't ever touch a weight. And you can see who's who on the PGA Tour. Brooks
Hmm.
Koepka, he's lifting, he's bench pressing, he's squatting, he's deadlifting. And then you have a guy like Justin Thomas who hasn't touched a barbell in his life. But
Mm.
they're all elite golfers, and every body and every golfer is different. And I learned the best for me in season to kind of get away from the soreness of things is a lot of bands and a lot of body weight stuff and a lot of rotation stuff. So that's kind of how I focus on things.
So someone like John Daly, a lot of us that aspire to be good golfers, we can down a beer every hole and do a pack of cigarettes, and we still have a shot. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, of course. He did it for a lot of years and he did it very well. There's no right combination. That's the crazy thing about golf. Um, there's no perfect swing that can guarantee you a great shot every time. There's no perfect putting stroke, and there's definitely no perfect physio routine. It's just you have to find what works for you, and you have to believe in it.
Absolutely. And you dropped some names there. I'm curious to know, as far obviously you're a watcher of the PGA Tour. What are kind of some guys that you like to think you model your game after?
Ooh, that's always a good question. Because I was self-taught. So, I would, I like, I love the mindset of Brooks Koepka. Um,
Hmm.
he ramps up 4 times a year, all for the majors. Those are the only one that matters in his head, which was the same way with Tiger. He was focusing everything on the 4 major championships of the year. I love the mental side of Brooks's game. I would love to say I hit it like Scotty Scheffler, but that's just not a fact.
Yeah.
I do love watching the old videos of Steve Stricker and how he pitches it and wedges the golf ball. I take pride in my wedge game and my pitching game, and I love watching him and how he goes about it. So I like to model my wedge game after him. And for me, it's just I don't like to model myself after anyone, like in the swing or something, because my body's not theirs. But you can pick bits and pieces from everybody. Brooks Koepka, for example, he's a cutter of the golf ball like I am, and I learned from him that it's okay to swing way left, and as long as you have face control, you can play it. And so it's little things like that that you pick up on along the way through conversations or watching videos, and it's like, okay, well, what I'm doing is not completely wrong, so we're along the right path at least.
How often do you find yourself kind of fine tuning those details? Because I'm sure you try one thing and it could change. I don't think you're making any dramatic changes in season, but how often are you fine tuning your stroke?
Oh, I mean, for me, it's paying attention to the details every day. A great guy does that. Xander Schauffele just won the PGA Championship. I picked up a lot of things from his practice routine. About it sounds so weird, but it's like he has a alignment stick with tape at certain spots for his feet and for the length of how far he stands from the golf ball. And it's the little details every day, because if you just forget about those, that can creep into your swing in ways that you don't really think about. And before you know it, you're completely lost. I focus on the details and the stuff I can control every day. And yeah, I'm not during season. It's hard to make big changes because at the end of the day, it's about what you can step up on the tee box and trust. So right before regionals, I hadn't been playing my best in the last three tournaments coming in. Had some good finishes, but just really wasn't in contention for as long as I would like to be, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I visited my swing coach down in Texas, and I was like, "All right, man, you know what's going on. You've seen the scores. Like, we're close, but we're not winning." And he was like, "All right, well, let's not throw out the towel, or we don't have to rebuild the wheel here."
Mm-hmm.
And just, I love him to death because he keeps everything very simple and back to the basics of like, all right, if you're going to draw it, you have to swing right with a shut face. You got to cut it, swing left with an open face. He was like, if you can control those, you don't have to have a perfect golf swing. If you can control that, you can control your distances and trust your putter, like, you're going to be okay. And so that's a big thing for me, because if I'm swinging it too far left, it's like, all right, I don't have to reshape my swing. I just have to feel swinging it right a little bit. And so that really helps me a lot, just the maintenance, the day to day of, because I don't have the perfect golf swing. I mean, in the perfect golf swing, like Adam Scott, I mean, if that was the key, he would win every week, and he just doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to know where your golf ball is going and how to get it in the hole. And that's what I focus on a lot in my practice, just making sure everything's in the right setup so I can do that, you know.
And your game continues to grow. And as we're recording that this week, you made the announcement on via social media that you've signed, I guess, with a management group, and now you're looking to move on to professional. So, kind of tell me a little bit and look into the future here for Owen. What are kind of some aspirations for you as your game continues to grow?
Yeah, it's been a chaotic week. A lot of phone calls, a lot of emails sent across. I did sign with a management company. Nick is the guy who runs it, and he's a great guy. He's great from the management standpoint because he's been in the golf business for 20 years and all different kinds of it, with club companies, management companies, and players. And he's also a great guy because if I called him and I need him to come pick me up on the side of the road, he'd be there. We've developed a great relationship. I know he'll always go to bat for me. Looking into the professional golf, I've been really excited for it. I played a Monday qualifier on Monday, and finally I've played a couple before just as an AM, but finally got a taste of, oh, this is life now. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this is the business, and sadly, the money reflects how good you play. But I love that side of it, because like I said earlier, it's all up to me. There's nobody to blame. There's nothing to put it on. Like, if I'm going to go make a check, I have to go do it. So think it's June 8th. I go up to Canada for Canada Q School to play on the Canadian tour up there, because Corn Ferry Q School doesn't start to the fall. Play our way on there and have some tournaments to play and get after a little bit up there.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting news. I mean, I guess that's something you had planned on this whole time as you were finishing out your career at MTSU, that the professional route was something that would be worth going after.
Yeah, I mean, we of course freshman year, everybody's terrible their freshman year. You know, there's a few exceptions, of the Gordon Sargents of the world, but I finally figured out probably halfway through my junior year, it's like, hey, we can actually do this, and I'm getting a lot of good feedback from guys that are playing professionally and coaches that have seen what it takes. And it was like, well, I think we can do this, but we have to focus on every little detail now, because it's a job, and professional is a very literal term. You have to be a professional about what you eat, how you sleep, how you travel, and that's before you even step on the golf course. So I'm excited for it. I love the challenge and the adventure that it brings. So
You sound like you got the good head on your shoulders for that kind of aspirations. I mean, as you said, it's like your play is your paycheck, and that's kind of a different aspect that most of us don't have the fortune to live every day. So that's exciting news for you. Obviously, you have plenty of talent. I'm excited for you as well as many Blue Raider fans. But before we shut down the interview here, I'd just love to hear kind of your final parting words here for MTSU. I know you graduated not too long ago, so just tell me again, like what your those parting words are to Blue Raider fans.
no, Blue Raider Nation's been awesome. I've got nothing but support from everybody and best of wishes. The members at our golf clubs that we play at, they're the best. I get texts every day at least from multiple of them about checking up on me. How's everything going? If I need anything, MTSU, it was a great experience of 4 years, and people ask me, do I regret anything? You mentioned the transfer portal, but no, I would go back and do it all again. 4 years at Murfreesboro. It is truly home for me, and I loved every second of it. And I thank everyone who followed along on the journey.
Absolutely. Oh, and I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jake.
Welcome back into the Blue Raider podcast and our summer series episode 1 as we highlight our NCAA championship competitors from our spring sports. And now joined with me is our hurdling specialist from the outdoor and indoor track and field team is Stephen Eloji Jr. Stephen, how's it going?
Good, good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man.
So,
And
yeah,
as we talked on the top of the show here, you were traveling a lot. I know you're in Lexington still right now as you and some of your fellow teammates are competing. And at the time of recording, you had your first heat yesterday, and it didn't end exactly how you would have liked for it to. But tell me a little bit
yeah.
about your experience these last 2 years there competing at the East Regionals.
It's been great. I mean, going toe to toe and head to head with a lot of great as student athletes as well as myself. It's just been unfortunate that sometimes, like life is, filled with hurdles. You just
Mm-hmm.
gotta take it one at a time, basically. But yeah, it's been great. It's just sometimes it just doesn't happen the way we want it to happen. But then again, we just gotta forge ahead. But yeah, it's been awesome. It's been good. Yeah.
And to highlight, for those that don't know, Steven did run the second fastest time in NCAA this year in order to qualify for the East Regional. And so, with that being said, it's funny how track can be that way. I know that a lot of people will talk
Yeah.
about altitude, they'll talk about wind and those kind of things. And so, I'm interested to hear your take on one. You broke your own record there in the Conference USA Championships, but
Yeah.
what changes from the Conference Championships to say the regionals you had yesterday?
Nothing really. Nothing really changes from that. It's just just trying to basically just keeping the same focus in mind and just going into every championship, every meet with the same mindset, hoping to go faster and be better than what the previous meet or track championship was. And for me, my mindset going into the East region was qualify and just go to the NCAAs, but as as I could as life could have it, I clipped the hurdle yesterday. I just couldn't get my rhythm right and crashed out of the fight for the next round. So yeah, that's what it was. But yeah.
How do you avoid something like that? I know obviously that's the name of the game when we're doing 110-meter hurdles, but
Oh
how exactly is
yeah.
that something like it's all cadence, right? There's a rhythm to it.
Oh yeah, that's a rhythm. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Well, to be honest, I'll say just executing right, just being focused and just executing every part of the race good and as it should be. So yeah, that's basically just what it is. Yeah.
And I think the head on your shoulders is right about it. And again, highlighting your career that you've already had at MTSU over the last 3 years is you've got plenty of conference championships to go with it. 110-meter on the outdoor. We know that you've kind of run the table with the 60-meter hurdle on the indoor side of things. How does
Yeah.
someone become a hurdler? Like you obviously have great speed, but what sets you from being a hurdler as opposed to just being a 100 or 200-meter runner?
Whew. I'll say techniques. I'll say having the right techniques going over the hurdles because it's not. Yeah, you have to. Yeah, definitely techniques because the hurdles is not just something you can just wake up and say, hey, I want to be a hurdler. And over time, you have to develop this technique and a race pattern for yourself to be more comfortable with it. Because, like I said, it's not something you just wake up and say, hey, I want to be a hurdler or something. You just gotta have years accumulated off techniques and speed as well. So yeah, yeah.
So I'm interested. Is it hurdling something that you kind of thought you would be into? Like again, like I'm sure at some point as a track runner, you probably get tried out at all sorts of different events. Is it something that like from the get go your coaches saw like hurdling is something that Steven's going to be he's going to excel at relative to other events?
Yeah, growing up, my mom was my coach, so yeah, she said, you had the height for the hurdles. You should be a hurdler. You'll be good at hurdles because apparently she tested me in every event on the track and field. I did virtually every event before I found that the hurdle is my niche. But yeah, my mom like basically because of my height said, the hurdle you'll do
Hurdles
good
is
in the
yours.
hurdle. Yeah, and that's so far so good. I've been excelling well in them. So yeah.
So how long have you been a student of your mom's?
Whew. I started, I think, whenever I was like 12.
Mm.
Yeah, I was 12 years old when I started working, like training with my mom. Cause
I know that your hometown you have listed as is excuse me, it's Anambra, Nigeria. Is that correct?
yes, you're right. You're
So
right.
is that where you're from? Is that where your family's from, or were you born and raised in Nigeria?
Yes, that's where my family is from, and I was
So
born
what
and raised in
what point
Nigeria.
did you and your family make the trip here, were you a solo trip? What's your journey here to America?
Right. So basically, I had my first year of college in Nigeria, like the COVID year,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was just I heard about MTSU from a fellow track athlete back there in Nigeria, who my mom also trained, Benjamin Arinze. He graduated MTSU last fall. So yeah, I heard he was here, and I was like, I'll love to come to the US, and I emailed Coach Dean Hayes, so blessed memory, Mr. Rest in peace. I emailed him and I told him my times, and he was interested in recruiting me for MTSU, and here I am. So yeah.
That's always an interesting story, and the team is full of those that are not from the United States. So it's always an interesting how that chemistry can build up with you guys. And like you said, you heard through the grapevine about MTSU. So is it a comfortable situation because you're around fellow athletes that have similar stories to yourself?
Oh yeah, yeah, yes. It was really comfortable because it was more like how do I say? It was kind of like home away from home, but not typically. But yeah, because I had people who, helped me settle in well, so it wasn't really much of a struggle for me. But yeah, it was with it'll be I settled in with ease compared to how I feel like I would have if I didn't have anyone around here. So yeah, it was okay.
So you've been here for 3 years, is that right, in America?
Yes, yes,
So,
3 years.
so as you've kind of, I guess you've taken part in the culture here a little bit long enough. What are kind of some things that you enjoy the most about being here relative to home? What are kind of some things that you've kind of taken root to?
The weather. I'll say the weather one. Oh yeah, the weather. Actually, I kind of, as odd as it may be, I enjoy the winter. I enjoy winter a lot. That and the food. Kind of, kind of acquired a lot of good food, taste for good food here. So yeah, those two kind of top of my list to be honest. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I know too. If anyone follows you on social media, you've taken a lot of part there in anime. That kind of seems to be a big time server for you. But also, like, what are kind of some music, those kind of things that you've taken hold of?
To be honest, I don't. The music, I'm kind of like a all around type guy. I don't really listen to a specific kind of music. Well, oh no, actually, I kind of like country music. I kind of go with country music a lot. I
Really?
like country. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I kind of like country music
Well,
too.
you're in the right area for that. Have you? I guess you've had the opportunity to go down to Broadway and experience the Nashville scene before.
Yeah, I tried line dancing a while. And I sucked at it totally. Sucked.
You
But
talk
yeah.
about the technique. You got to have the technique there to be a good
Oh
line
yeah.
dancer.
Oh yeah. For sure. For sure. For
That's
sure.
that's interesting that you enjoy the country music. That's awesome. But
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
interested too to know. I know that when you came here, you say that you're a track. Were you ever interested in any other sports? I'd have to assume at some point someone gave you a crack or an opportunity to play basketball with your height.
I did play basketball at some point in high school, and I fractured my wrist, and ever since then it was a no go for me. I tried dunking, and then landing, some dude just like hit me, and I tried to like use my left arm to support my fall, and yeah, my bone came out. Kind of had like this Wolverine fang shaped thing, and I was like, oh yeah. Ever since then, I just then go back to basketball. I played sometime, but it was just leisurely. And then I used to kind of play lawn tennis a lot, but I just didn't do that anymore. My focus was track, and track just took everything away from me. So yeah, that's what it was.
Well, very cool. Anything else as far as hobbies outside of sports that you may have taken up since being here? Like, what are kind of some things that fill your time when you're not training and you're not in class?
Uh, just hiking, driving around. I mean, it's a beautiful scenery out here compared to where I'm from. So I take the time to just drive around, know new places, learn new things, and yeah, hiking. So yeah.
What does your training schedule kind of look like? Because I know track is one of those sports, especially if you live here in the southeast, you can partake in it on a regular basis. And as we've already talked about, the indoor season as well. So track is never necessarily ever out of season. As a track runner, and a part of the series, we've talked to a golfer, and I'm interested to know, like, what kind of training season does it look like for you? Is it one of those things that you're constantly doing on a weekly basis, daily basis? Is there a season where there's a downtime? What does that look like for Steven?
It's a daily basis. It's daily basic kind of training for me because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we are training. If we're not training, our rest period is more like an active rest, but we're still kind of like training because we still go to track and then have to relax the muscles and all of that. I still kind of see that as training, anyways. But there's no really downtime. The only downtime I would say I will have or I have is during the fall or before the fall. Probably have like a 3 months window there to like relax the body and go again. But right now it's just with the Olympic in mind, it's not gonna happen because it's just gonna be short and all of that. So yeah, it's kind of like a all year round kind of sport for me. It's training season. That's what it is.
So, what do those aspirations look like past college? You got one more year. I think your expectation already is to run the table one more time in the 110 as well as the 60 meter. I'm sure you have your eye on the 400 meter as well, and as far as Conference USA goes. And then we're looking at going to the NCAA's next summer. So, what are the aspirations past, say, college next season? Where do you look to go with your career in regards to your athletics?
So right now though, I'm planning on. I hope to just, if it comes, be a pro athlete. Sign with one of the brands, and that's if that comes. And I kind of like tend to take life one at a time. So I honestly
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I honestly don't know wherever life takes me, or whatever life throws at me, and I'll take it. I haven't really given that much thought.
So what do you go to? What's your major in school?
See, yeah,
Okay.
I tend to lean towards cybersecurity. So yeah, yeah.
Okay. What's kind of your taking there?
Technology basically. I mean, it's a vast growing field, and it's one. I'm tech savvy, so
Okay.
I enjoy being around tech and just learning a lot of new things. So yeah, I was like, yeah, why not just go for what makes me happy? And like they say, if you can't remember the saying exactly, but you just don't have to work a day if you enjoy what you're doing. If you
Sure.
enjoy what you're doing, you don't have to work. So yeah, I was like, why not just go for it? So yeah.
The irony that most listeners don't know right now is the fact that we're having technical issues because you're in Lexington right now dealing with some hotel Wi-Fi issues, and I myself have had some camera issues this week. And so the irony that you're an IT guy and we're having to work through some of these problems to get our
Yeah.
interview off and those kind of things. So
Yeah.
I just that's interesting too, and I say that because of when you come to America, you got obviously your athletics is kind of the forefront of your mind. When you've gotten here, I'm interested too about that dynamic of coming to America and putting your studies kind of as in the forefront. Is that something that say? Because I know in Nigerian families, typically getting your education is something that families really stress heavily on, and they take a lot of pride in their children coming. So where does that kind of stand in as far as your family?
So my family is really education oriented. My mom just graduated with her PhD back in Nigeria. So
Oh, wow.
I mean, yeah. So I believe, yeah, yeah. She had a PhD in sport administration. So yeah, the sport and the education is kind of like hand in hand in my family. So I believe my mom also want me to venture down that path. And I was like, if right now just going for my masters and having that in my resume would be ultimate in terms of education.
Do you ever plan to make I mean, how often do you, if you do get to go back to Nigeria, is that something that you wait till after your graduation, or is it, now that we're in the summer and your outdoor season's over, do you plan to venture a trip back over there?
Yeah, yeah. I plan on going back to Nigeria, especially for the Olympic trials. So I'll just probably use the opportunity to connect with my family, meet my family, especially my mom. So yeah.
I imagine I lost you there for a second again. I imagine that that's a pretty competitive field in regards to the track and field there in Nigeria. Is that kind of is there something else that you, when you're talking about qualifying? I know we've talked ad nauseum about your hurdling career. Is there anything else that, like an event that you kind of wish you had your eye on, that's something that you think you could potentially attempt to excel at as well?
Yeah, I'll probably say the 200 meter sprint. Like that would be one of the events I feel like, yeah, if I probably train well enough for, I feel like, yeah, I'll thrive there. So yeah, yeah.
Well, the real sexy pick is always the 100-meter dash. Like, that's something that I think everyone wants to be
True.
famous for, and that's always one that, like, and it's again, it's so interesting that the 110-meter hurdles is something that you're good at, because I consider that a lot more athletic. As you mentioned, there's when you're talking about sprinting, and no shade to any of the guys that are great at it, like the Usain Bolts of the world, but like, there's
Yeah.
something about being a hurdler and having to dial in the technique. And as you say, any day, you could slip up, you could be off by just a half centimeter, because that's how hurdling is. So
True.
I certainly admire the effort that you make to excel at something like that. And again, it shouldn't go unnoticed, being the second fastest time in NCAA this year. So again, I congratulate you on that, and I congratulate you on your second straight year there at regionals. But
Thank you.
Stephen, one thing I wanted to give all my athletes their last opportunity before we hang up the call is just, what are kind of some things that you like to say to give back to Blue Raider Nation and the support that they've given you, as well as the athletic department?
Well, one, I like to just appreciate, the school generally, because it's not giving me the opportunity to represent them, and fly the Blue Raider flag high as possible. As I'm just I don't know if to say sorry that I haven't been able to take it to the national stage yet, but it's one thing I promise before I leave or graduate, that I'll you know try to accomplish or achieve for the school as well as for myself. So yeah, a big just want to appreciate my coaches for standing in the rain and the sun with me, pushing me through every hurdle, race, every training, making sure it's in there. But yeah, that's yeah. Just thank you generally for having me. So it is. Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely, and Stephen, the one of the fastest to don the blue and white. It's been a great time having you on.
Thank
And
you.
again, until next season, hopefully we'll do this again, and you'll be at the national level. So, and I'm
Nationals,
sure
yeah.
the Raider fans know that you're working hard for it. So again, I appreciate you coming
Thank
on.
you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.